Why are there so many denominations? Well, as per usual, we need to define our terms. What I mean by denominations here are different subgroups within the category of biblical Christianity. Now, there are obviously all subgroups have errors in them, including my own, and therefore I don't want to suggest by biblical Christianity that any of them are perfect. Of course they're not. But I'm distinguishing biblical Christianity from all other organizations that claim to be Christian but are not, who deny what is essential to the faith. The Church of Latter-day Saints, once upon a time, used to take the position that they alone were the true church and that every other professing Christian church was not a true church. But somewhere 20 or 30 years ago, they tried a different tack, and now they want to be considered just another denomination, despite the fact that they deny the Godhead of Jesus. Jesus is a creature. He is made, created, and they deny that essential of the faith, the deity of Christ. Now, I'm not here today to tell you which ones are Christian and which ones are not, but I am here to answer the question, why are there so many denominations? In fact, one of the arguments made by one of those organizations that I would argue is outside the kingdom, it's not a biblical Christian church, Roman Catholicism, is, see, we must be the true church because you have all these different denominations. You Protestants are constantly splintering and fracturing from each other. What gives with that? Well, first, let me say this. It's absolutely true that Protestants are often splintering and fracturing from each other. It's also absolutely true that Roman Catholics are doing the same thing. I can think of two significant fractures, one between Eastern Orthodoxy and Roman Catholicism, and then, I don't know, the Reformation. So, there's no obvious claim of which one of these institutions is the continuing church. And in fact, Protestants take the view that Rome left the church, not that the church left Rome. So, why are the denominations? Well, here's why. Sin. Sin. We have all the denominations we have because we have sin. Now, how does sin create denominations? Two ways. One, it creates error. And error can become a reason for separation. There are churches that believe that you should baptize the children of believers when they're babies, and churches that believe that you should only baptize those who've made who've professed their faith verbally. And those two churches have their convictions and want to see them practiced, and it's kind of tough for them to be in the same institution. Because if you are, if you do one thing and not the other, or do the other thing and not the one, then, well, you have a hard time getting along. Doesn't mean we don't recognize them as our brothers and sisters in Christ. It just means we're not in the same institution. Now, I'm not saying this is an easy call, by the way, on baptism by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's a profoundly difficult call, and I think it is something that the church has disagreed on for a long, long time. But I also think it's a non-essential. That doesn't mean unimportant. It just means non-essential. So there's that. There are then, even more so, I would argue, that there are multiple denominations out there, thousands of them, literally, in large part because in our sin, we like to build empires. And people would rather rule in a smaller division of the church than be ruled in a larger division of the church. And we find ridiculous excuses to drive our separation. A denomination that I was once a part of went through a major split over the issue of whether or not Roman Catholic baptism should be recognized as Christian baptism, something that Protestants have debated for centuries and managed to do so peacefully by and large. I'd never heard of a church splitting over this until the one that I used to be in did this. So, and that's when I really thought, I don't think this is about that issue. I think this is about, I don't like being ruled by these guys. I want to be big kahuna. And even though the pond gets smaller and smaller, it makes me feel like a bigger fish. So, once again, why is there something bad like all the divisions in the church? Because we're bad. We're sinners.